North End Planning Commission meeting to order at 7:02. First thing we'll do, we have a roll call. Commissioner Bovers.
Present.
Commissioner Bush.
Here.
Commissioner Greenberg.
Here.
Commissioner Moe.
Sorry, present.
Commissioner Torgerson.
Here.
And Commissioner Tao is here. I heard him say that. Okay.
Yeah, I am here. Thank you.
We have a full house tonight. And right, so item number 2 is the opportunity for the public comment. But this is an item that is not on the agenda. We're going to have our public hearing after we get through just a little bit of business, but this isn't any item that is not on the agenda. And you do have 3 minutes. And do we have any members of the public that would like to speak on any item that's not on the agenda?
I'm assuming the agenda is having to do with the project.
Yes, it is.
Thank you.
Hearing none, we'll move along. We have no members that have wanted to speak on anything that's not on the agenda. Item number 3 is the approval of our minutes from March 25th, 2021 and April 22nd, 2021 of our Planning Commission. Do any commissioners have any comments, clarifications, or adjustments to the minutes? Do we have a motion to approve those minutes from March 25th and April 22nd?
This is Commissioner Bush. I make a motion to approve the minutes from the March 25th and April 22nd meeting.
Okay, Commissioner Bush. Do we have a second?
I second that.
Second, Commissioner Moe. We have a motion made by Commissioner Bush and a second by Commissioner Moe. Any discussion?
I was not at the March 25th meeting. Since both sets of minutes have been combined into one motion, I will vote for those minutes. I would normally abstain, but I don't think it's a big deal.
Okay.
Yeah, this is Commissioner Tao, same as Scott. I missed the first meeting, attended the second one, so I'll approve both minutes, but I wasn't at the first meeting.
Thank you.
And ditto for Commissioner Bovers.
I thought we got that all squared away last time, but I guess we didn't. Okay, let's see. So all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing no opposition, we'll make those minutes from March 25th, 2021, April 22nd, 2021 approved. Now we move to number 4 on our agenda tonight, which is the development agreement with potential West North End Way senior housing project. Can we please have our staff report? Mike McCarty, are you going to do that for us tonight?
I will, yeah. Yeah, I'm happy to do that. So I just want to thank everybody, first of all, for being a part of the meeting. So it's a gorgeous evening, and you guys have sacrificed that beautiful evening to attend this hearing. So thank you. My name is Mike McCarty, and I'm a senior planner with the City of North Bend. And in a moment after my introduction, I want to introduce the applicant, or let her introduce herself, and Billy Sukeson. So she is the proposed developer. What she is proposing is a 60-unit senior housing project at the west end of the downtown, just west of the Poorhouse Bar and Grill and adjacent to the South Fork Snoqualmie River. I can share my screen here and show the site and the site plan. If I can get the buttons right here. You all see my screen here? Are you able to see my screen?
I just see MM. I don't see anything else.
I was
Oh.
able to see it, but you just opened
I-
up the meeting. There you go.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, so anyways, here is the site, West North Bend Way, the downtown area. This is the poorhouse, the North Bend Park and Ride, and the site is 2 parcels right here off the South Fork Snoqualmie River, currently undeveloped. And let me go to the site plan itself. And so here you can see the proposal includes the 60-unit multifamily building. The river is here, and the proposal would also include a trail along the top of the levee. It doesn't affect the levee other than just constructing the trail on it. Some parking to the side and to the rear of the building, as well as below the residential, 3 floors of residential in the building. Some elevations to show you the topography slopes down away from North Bend Way. So as you're looking at the building from North Bend Way, it actually looks like a 2-story building, but that's through some clever design. It's actually 3 stories. And then the below grade parking, as you go away from North Bend Way, the topography slopes down to provide access to that parking. There's a rendering the developer has provided of the building as it looks from West North Bend Way. Stop sharing my screen and I continue to present here. So the property is within the city's downtown commercial zone, and the subject of the whole development agreement is relating to the height. So within the height, or within the downtown commercial zone at this particular location, there's a height limit of 35 feet. And Ms. Sukeson is seeking the development agreement to allow a building height of up to 43 feet. So that's 8 feet in excess of the height limit that's allowed in this location. So for comparison though, the height limit that's 1 block further to the east in the downtown core is 45 feet. So it's actually taller just to the east of the site than what's allowed here. So a development agreement, what that is it's a contractual agreement that's authorized under state law between a developer and a city, which establishes or which can allow for establishing standards and requirements that differ from portions of a city's development regulations. So a development agreement has to be considered through a public process, just like a code amendment would. And so that includes a public hearing before the Planning Commission, which is why we're here tonight, and then a recommendation by the Planning Commission after they've considered that public comment and the staff report and the factors at hand. They'll make their recommendation to the City Council, and then City Council then takes that up for consideration. So there's a number of factors that relate to Ms. Sukeson's request for the additional height. And the first one is that topography of the site. So as it slopes down away from North Bend Way, what that does is it brings down the height of the building for what you could achieve at the North Bend Way elevation. We measure based on the average base elevation. So as that slopes down, it's bringing that average height down further. And you combine that with the issue of the floodplain. The floodplain is constraining it from the bottom up. So the city's flood regulations require that you elevate residential structures to 2 feet above the level of the 100-year flood. So what Ms. Sukeson is proposing to do with that is to construct the parking below the building. And that has the benefit of being able to accommodate that space, provide some of the flood venting that's required to ensure that you're meeting flood regulations and providing the residential up above that flood level. So because of that, and because she's indicated that the project wouldn't be financially viable with just 2 floors of residential, that's why she's asking for the additional 8 feet of height to allow that 3rd floor. She's also seeking a partial vacation, a right-of-way vacation of excess right-of-way at West North Bend Way. So at that location, West North Bend Way, for whatever reason, is much wider than it is further to the east or along most of the other portion of the corridor. And she's seeking that partial vacation to allow the building to then front up to the street just as it does with other areas within the downtown. And that helps her also to utilize that sloping topography to disguise that below grade parking from the street front. So the development agreement acknowledges that right-of-way vacation and that the proposal is to locate the building within a part of that area, but that right-of-way vacation would be a separate process, separate from this development agreement. So in exchange for that 8 feet of additional building height, Ms. Sukeson is offering to make 10% of the units within the development permanently affordable, and that would be to households making at or below 80% of the area median income. So that commitment would be required as a part of the development agreement with an affordable housing agreement between the city and the applicant that would lay out the details of administration of that program and management of that commitment. The development agreement would also allow for a reduction in transportation impact fees just for the affordable housing units. That reduction wouldn't apply to the regular units, but that's recognizing the public benefit of enabling those units to be built. So there's a very important clarification that I want to make here, and that's that there's no actual development submittal being considered at this point. So we have not received any permit applications other than this request to consider the building height through a development agreement. So Ms. Sukeson and her team, what they want to know is whether or not this 8 feet of additional height could be allowed before spending the thousands of dollars on the required reports and studies that would accompany a development application. You got to start somewhere. So she wants to start with this question on height because, again, that relates back to the financial viability of the project. So those studies, if she is granted that additional 8 feet to prepare those studies, and that would include floodplain analysis, stormwater, critical areas analysis, the full engineering plan set, and that would be the very next step that she would need to undertake if this is approved. So I did say a lot.
I'm sorry, I'm just gonna let everyone know I'm muting all participants not speaking. So when it's your turn to speak, you'll be able to unmute yourself. We're getting a little bit of an echo.
Make sure I'm not muted here.
This is Commissioner Blanco. I got kicked out on one system, so I'm back in on another one, and I am so sorry about that, but I'm back with you, and I don't know what I've missed, but I'm back here to help out. Have we started anything yet?
Mike, you're muted.
Thank you. You guys hear me now? Okay. So I saw a lot of comment that came in the public comment received about concerns with flood impacts for the proposal. And again, that's not the topic of this particular development agreement, but I did want to acknowledge the city's floodplain regulations require that new development not reduce the base flood storage volume of the floodplain and require compensatory storage, which is taking out an equivalent amount of material to any displacement that you're bringing in. And they also require demonstration of no increase in the rate and volume of stormwater runoff leaving a site. So again, that review is ahead with those required studies submitted with a complete application. So what the Planning Commission is considering then is just the subject of the development agreement. And that's the height, the building height that they're asking for in exchange for providing the affordable housing units. So the Planning Commission is not reviewing this project against the city's development regulations. That's its own process further down the road, and that would also include its own opportunity for public comment. So for the purpose of this development agreement request, what the Planning Commission needs to consider is whether on balance this proposal for the additional 8 feet of height in exchange for the affordable housing units would be in the public interest and should therefore be approved. They'll need to consider the benefits and the impacts of the proposed height increase and whether that's consistent with the city's comprehensive plan. So I've laid that out in the staff report, which is available within the Planning Commission packet. But just broadly, what the primary benefit is to receive that senior housing. So the city is deficient in having senior housing, and this project will provide an option for people that are aging within North Bend, existing residents enabling them to remain in this community rather than have to move out of the area to seek senior housing. So that's actually something that happens fairly often. And what we want is a whole community where somebody can age in place all the way from just graduating from high school to having their kids, grandkids, to be able to remain as a part of their community. And the only way that we can do that is to have a diversity of housing forms. And right now, the city is deficient in senior housing, so it's something that we want to see happen. Some other benefits are about vitality of the downtown area. This adds additional residents within walking distance of downtown shops and restaurants. And there's the benefit of the 6 affordable housing units. That's not many units, but I think it's important also to note that this is a market rate project. This is not an affordable housing project. So a lot of the programs and grants and so forth that are available for affordable housing projects are not available to this applicant. So she's doing this 10% of the units as that trade-off for the additional 8 feet of building height. So there's the potential impact is aesthetics. So that's something that the Planning Commission will have to consider and that we'll want to hear from the public. But that's also mitigated by the factors of the topography on the site. So again, it slopes down away from North Bend Way. So the building view from the street is less than what it otherwise would be. And the design of the building also includes pitched roofs and multiple building forms and wings, which help to break up that scale and mass. And then again, just considering that height in relation to the 45 feet, that's allowed just 1 block to the east. So your input on this is really important to us, the Planning Commission, staff, and the City Council. Planning Commission is not going to make their recommendation on this tonight. What they want to do is carefully consider the comments that they receive from you before making their recommendation onto the City Council. So let me turn it over to the applicant, Billy Sukeson. She can introduce herself and speak to her proposal. And then we'll turn it back to Commissioner Blanco to open the public hearing.
Thank you, Mike. I'm Ambili Sukeson. I'm the founder of Amil Senior Living Project in North Bend. I really appreciate everyone being here today. And I'll just take a couple of minutes to explain some of the background on this initiative. I'm one of the stakeholders of Indian Association of Washington, and I've been helping and working in the community outreach effort. And we work with senior community in crisis care and other issues. And I have realized that we have a growing aging population within our community. And also, this is a real need that we are seeing. So since I already have experience in multifamily management, I thought of adding senior living as another area that I can explore and kind of really support the aging community. Even though I am inspired by this, by my service with our Indian community, I see this needs there everywhere. And this project is for everyone in North Bend. And North Bend, I chose North Bend as because it's very scenic, it's tucked away from the city, and its proximity to the river is kind of really nice. Everybody likes to be next to a flowing river. So I thought this is a very good fit for the project. And another reason is this is a project that will bring more people to downtown and eateries and it's a walkability to downtown area will really be more lively to people who live there. So anyway, with all the amenities that we are planning to provide, like yoga, healthy food, other services, possibly a rooftop deck, all that will increase the quality of our senior residents. What else? So this project being in the North Bend, this become part of the North Bend community, especially for residents coming from outside of the city. I think the proximity to the main city area will provide an exciting place to explore. Meanwhile, the project will bring new development and jobs to the community. I just want to conclude by saying that helping elderly is something that I always been very It has been important to me. I grew up in a multi-generational large family, and we were raised to always care for our elders. So this problem that I described earlier is real, that there is a need. And I do believe that this project will help all of us. I plan to make this initiative one that we can all feel good about it. And the concerns of the flood issues that some of the neighbors brought it up, like Mike was saying, that is something our engineering team will evaluate. We make sure there is no additional flooding in the neighborhood because of this construction that we will go through with Mike and team at the next phase if this comes through. I really appreciate your time and listening to me and your consideration. Thank you so much.
So Commissioner Blanco, back to you. You can provide any guidance and open the public hearing.
Okay, before we do the public hearing, does any commissioner have any questions before we begin our public hearing? Okay, hearing none, we'll go ahead and open the public hearing, and I have it 7:23 p.m. And I do want to remind you, I got kicked out a little bit ago, and I just want to remind you that it is, I hope we can all stay together on this. I don't know how this is, what goes on inside these little computers, but we do have a few rules. We do ask members who wish to speak to, on the bottom of your screen, you'll see a little hand, and we can raise your hand, unmute, and we can call on you and you do the speaking. You do get 3 minutes. We're not going to hold you exactly 3 minutes. We want to hear what you have to say. So with that, do we have any members of the public who would like to speak? Do I have a hand yet? Let's see. Oh, there we go. This is Aaliyah and Joe.
Yes.
Yes.
Joe G's. I think I probably have a letter here from you, but we can hear you. So please go ahead.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for the opportunity to address our concerns. I think this is important to talk about. I think that I understand that height is the only issue on the table today, but it feels a bit like we're putting the cart in front of the horse. An extra layer of height means more weight, which is going to affect the groundwater displacement. In addition, I think, with all due respect, it's not just about aesthetic in that regard. I think that it's important that we understand the full environmental impact of this development before granting exceptions. Furthermore, thank you, Mike, for your replying to my email, but it didn't address one very important point that my legal counsel had brought to my attention, that development agreements can set in stone parameters for the project, but if I understand what he told me, is that the development agreement cannot be used to violate certain or current city codes. And currently, the code is that it's 35 feet there. So I think that we really need to address that first. This agreement can't be put into place with the code as is, that the code needs to be changed first. Also, it's hard for me to say this because I don't want to get too personal. I think that the project is very important. I understand Ambali's desire to bring senior housing to North Bend. I think that is a wonderful thing. We can all agree that senior housing is important. We want to support our seniors. But those words ring rather hollow from our conversation that I had in my front yard with Ambali when she came trying to buy my and my neighbor's property in April of 2019. She said she was, quote, short of parking. And when I made it clear that none of us wanted to sell, she asked about my neighbor behind me and, quote, I heard she's sick and old. Is that true? That's a rather wolf-like thing to say. It sounded very predatory to me at the time. And so when she says that she wants to support our community, it rings rather hollow. I think the project itself is wonderful, but let's put it somewhere else that's more environmentally feasible, next to the river where it floods every year. doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So this being just a hearing about height, I understand that. But at the same time, again, the project as a whole seems unfeasible. And I think that we should really address that issue before addressing specifics like height. It's not a good place. Wonderful project, bad place.
Is that a summation for you?
Yes, I put up the rest of my comments in detail with add-ons from my legal counsel in my email. And I would just hope that we could address those concerns prior to this development agreement being approved.
Thank you very much.
I do have with me also my neighbor from across the street, Adam Weber, who could not join on his own computer. Are we able to go ahead and give him 3 minutes as well?
We certainly can.
Perfect.
Hi there. I live in a lot that would be most impacted by flooding, so obviously I'm very concerned. I will stick to the agreement.
I'm sorry, can we get your address for the record?
329 West 2nd Street. And so I was reading the agreement. There's section 6 river pathway requires that the developer pave the levee. I'm not sure if the city is even is aware that the levee is under risk evaluation right now with the county. That also to me suggests that maybe we don't have a full understanding of this site. Also section 8, I'd like to know what the estimated financial value to the developer is for the reduction in transportation impact fees. You can answer that later if you'd like. And then section 21 states that the agreement indemnifies the city from any legal actions. And I just would like to state that I personally do not. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Do we have someone else? Another hand, Jerry?
Hello,
Hello?
I'm James Gordon. Is that appropriate?
Pardon me?
I'm James Gordon.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, James.
Hi
His
there.
hands are going up all over the place. Let's do James first.
Thank you very much. I live in 340 West 2nd, and that is property that is directly adjoined to Ambley's property by approximately 87.5 feet. And I've lived here for 35 years with my wife and raised my children, and I've just been an active member in the community here in all ways. What I wanted to say is this. And it was spoken by Aaliyah presently. She said, the physical nature of adding a third story is in fact going to add weight, which has a physical effect on the groundwater. And I have watched every single year for 35 years, groundwater rising up when there's a combination of snowmelt and heavy rain. And that happens in the it happens in the early winter and late winter. You get a lot of snow real quick. It gets warm, it melts with high rain. And so the property she is looking to develop becomes really a very shallow lake several times a year. And I have witnessed it. There was a time where we had 100-year flood, it was called. And actually it happened twice. And it was significant in its flooding. So I'm thinking you're proposing to add buildings with underground parking, paved parking right next to my home, which every year dodges a bullet of being flooded. My neighbor Adam, which he just spoke, his property is alongside of Ambley's property, and our dear friend Catherine Mitchell to the north, her property lines up and her basement floods every year with groundwater. So you're adding a 2-story building. Well, let's add a 3rd floor. What will that do? The physics of that, it's obvious. I have no problem with Ambley, and I have no problem with what she's proposing to do. I just believe that this is the wrong piece of property. I wish her the best. I'd like her to develop this property with honor to the property and with honor to her neighbors. That's really what I want to say.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Do I have another hand? Aaliyah and Joe, I think your hand is still up. Is that? Thank you. Thank you. Do I have another hand? Lydia. You have to unmute.
Hello. Can you turn yours off for me?
I think if you're not speaking, we'll all have to mute. Okay, good. Okay, Lydia.
Okay, thank you. I'm Linda Gordon.
Sorry.
My husband is the guy that just spoke. Yeah, we've lived here on 340 West 2nd Street for over 35 years. We're bordering the project, as he said, and I'd like to mention that when we first moved here, Audrey Johnson's, her house was located next to the dike, not too far from where the proposal is for the building. Along the side of the house, a rowboat was kept, which was commonly used to row off of her property, which flooded with groundwater 2 or more times per year, as it continues to do. The house is no longer there, but that's what we walked into when we moved in here. Of high importance as well is the proposed access to this property. That's Amberley's. Just outside our property line on the front of our house is a gorgeous long-lived lace leaf maple tree, significant tree. When our son Max was attending the University of Washington 20 years ago, he had a conversation with about the tree with a botanist at UW who took such an interest that he drove out from Seattle to see it. He told Max, our son, that he had never seen a lace leaf maple of this size before, and it would be worth $30,000. This is 20 years ago. Easily half of this tree's expanse is on our property, and from what I read, it would require our permission before it was altered in any way. And I believe it is a treasure for the city and really should be considered and preserved if possible.
Thank you, Linda. Do I have another hand up? Let's see, I've still got James and Linda's hands up. Is there another wave at me?
Hello, I'm Jerry Bird.
Yes, Jerry. Could you give us your address, please?
I'm sorry? My address is 463 Northwest 8th Street, North Bend. I own the property just the other side of the river from this project. And that section of the property is not open to the public because of it's for dike maintenance only. However, lots of people do trespass through my property along that side of the river. And I'm worried that it's just going to get worse because people are used to walking in there without getting permission, and that there's no way other than the sign that's at the entrance to the next to the North Bend Way Bridge. There's really not any notice to the public other than the fact that it's not open to the public. So people treat it as if it is part of the path. Now, I'm a fairly tolerant person, and as long as people are not abusing it, I wouldn't have a problem. But if you're going to be adding a lot more people, particularly just the other side of the river, I suspect that I'm going to have a lot more issues with trespassers. Sometimes people even walk into my yard and look around and then come back in. I've even had city council members walk through that part of the property thinking that they have a right to walk through there because it's open to the public. So I'm concerned that that issue is not to be addressed unless, of course, the city decides they want to buy the rights to have access through that portion of the property. That's my only concern, that plus the issue of light pollution right now, because I own all the property on that side of the river. The lights don't really affect me. I like dark rather than light. So I'm concerned this project, with all the lighting that you're going to put on that side of the river, is going to essentially have me into a lot of new light pollution that I don't want to have to deal with. So those two issues, I'm hopeful that the city council will be able to deal with that. I mean, the planning commission can deal with some of those issues. And if not, then I'm against the project. If those issues are resolved altogether, I think it's a pretty good, worthwhile project.
Thank you very much. We have anyone else? Did I see another hand? I have someone on here, Valerie, one person. Here we go. Heather Bush, yes. Did you want to? Oh, no. Okay. Let's see. Is there someone named Valerie? No. Is there anyone else who would like to speak tonight?
Is it possible for me to say one other item that I think is very important?
Of course.
I'm sorry to bump in here again. This is Jim Gordon. I live 340 West 2nd and right next to the proposed project.
Okay.
In the 35 years I've lived here, I've watched the city, our city, and I applaud them for some of the things they've done to protect this area that's right next to the levee. And recently, a new home was built right in our backyard with Eddie and Ann Plano. And they carelessly had cut down trees and old growth against the levee, and they were called to accountability. I don't know if they were fined, but they were brought into a project where they have to reforest and create a whole new sustained ecosystem that they tore down. I'm really grateful that the city stepped in to protect this swath of land, which we see off of our back deck. As well, the 311 apartment owned by Leo, several years ago, he, without any permit or with any authority, he brought in ground, put in about a foot of ground. And his next door neighbor, Josh Shepard, his wife is Stephanie Shepard, and she's the principal at the elementary school here in town. I spoke with him tonight and asked if I could use his name and in regard, and he said, absolutely. He said he reported Leo to the city, and the city fined him and made him remove that foot of dirt that he put in because it adversely affected Josh and Stephanie's property, which is
time for some. Are you ready to some? We're getting kind of our time.
So I just do applaud that there has been, the city has stepped up and marshaled the way people are using the land. And it baffles me that this could actually go forward with these small projects being brought to accountability, that here we have an enormous, right next to the levee, in ground that takes terrible water every year. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Anyone else? Rebecca or Mike, do you see any hands at all? No.
No, I don't see any additional hands.
No.
No, I don't see anything in the chat either that requests speaking.
It's a lot easier in person, that's for sure. Is there anyone else that wishes to speak? Seeing none, hearing none, we will close the public hearing at 7:41. And I would like to thank you all for taking the time to come and talk to us tonight. We value your comments. That's what it's all about. We could be your neighbors. We're just folks. We don't work for the city. We're just on the planning commission, and we do our very best. And your comments give us things to ponder And so we really do appreciate them. Thank you so much. You can stick with us if you want. We've got a little bit of business to do, and that's if you'd like to. Does the commission have any questions or comments at this time? Well, hearing none, we will move on to, we have a little bit of business here that we need to take care of for, let's do Rebecca first, and then we'll do the other one. Number 5, which is the amendments to the North Bend Municipal Code 18.2, temporary uses.
Commissioner Blanco, before we move on to that, would you like me to respond to some of the questions that were raised?
If you would like to, absolutely.
Yeah, that may be helpful and beneficial.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
I just want to first say that you guys have a fantastic neighborhood there, and your longevity there, I think, really speaks to how great that neighborhood is. We're concerned about that too. We want your neighborhood to remain a safe and a viable and a terrific place to live. I personally also, I understand flood issues. I live not in the floodplain, but in the floodway in downtown Snoqualmie. And so I get the concerns that you have about floodwater. So just from a personal standpoint, I want you to know that I'm kind of with you in the flood plain there. Some questions that were raised. Aaliyah, you asked the question about the development agreement authority to or ability to go deviate from existing codes. So that is true that normally you would not be able to do that, but our development agreement code itself authorizes the city to do that. So it's 18.27.040 of the North Bend Municipal Code, and it specifically authorizes you to deviate from standards in the code through the development agreement process. Let's see. Adam Weber had asked a question about the reduction in the transportation impact fees. I want to be clear that that only applies to the affordable housing units, and the development agreement proposes a 50% reduction in recognition of the public benefit of receiving those affordable housing units. And that's consistent with what we also did with Habitat for Humanity and other affordable housing projects. We have exemptions typically for other impact fees, our park impact fees, our fire impact fees, et cetera, a full exemption for affordable housing projects. In this case, we're just reducing the impact fee for transportation that would apply and just to the affordable housing units. On the levy situation, the levy is not something that's reviewed on a project by project basis. That levy is maintained by King County, maintained and operated by King County. And so the proposal is not proposing to do anything to that levy other than potentially to pave it. And even the paving of it, it would have to go through King County for their approval to provide that paving on top of the levy. Other questions, the groundwater, James Gordon asked a question about the groundwater and the concern. Again, understandably, flooding does happen. But that will be the next phase of this project. So again, Ms. Sukeson wanted to understand, is this even a viable project? Because financially it wouldn't work with just the 2 floors. So now that if the city council approves that, that would be the very next thing that she'd need to investigate, is prepare those studies for the groundwater, the floodplain, engineering, et cetera, and she'll have to prove that the project is consistent with the standards of the municipal code before any permits would be approved. Linda Gordon asked the question about the lace leaf maple. So wherever we can, we encourage developers to preserve existing trees. Our tree code is actually pretty aggressive in requiring preservation of trees, and developers have to meet a certain tree credit on a property before it's approved, using retention of existing trees and planting of additional trees. Particularly if that tree is on the property line or very close there too, we're going to do everything we can to get the developer to retain that tree as a part of their site plan. Sometimes that's not possible because of the location of utilities or whatever, but that is something that we'll pay attention to and try to incorporate into the design if the project moves forward. Mr. Bird, you asked the question about the, first of all, the concern about trespassing. That's not really something that the city can do anything about. You could certainly provide signs on your property or for fencing to prevent trespassing. The light pollution concern, though, that is something that our code is very clear on. We have a very strong lighting regulation in the city of North Bend. We require full cutoff lighting, and that's specifically to minimize glare impacts. So if you look at our lighting regulations, you'll see a lot of things about glare and about reducing light spill. It's something that our council has been concerned about quite a bit in the past, and we hear a lot of public comment on that, and so we have strong regulations. Mr. Gordon asked the question about the compliance to our flood regulations and critical area regulations. So I think those code compliance issues or those violation issues show that we are paying attention. We do care about the flood impacts and ensuring code compliance. And this project, just as any other, is going to have to demonstrate full compliance to our municipal code. We have very strong flood regulations here, and they will have to comply to those. So I feel like those examples can give you comfort that we're paying attention. So I hope that that helped to address some of the questions that were raised. And I understand that, of course, that's not going to ameliorate all your concerns, but just know that we are going to be reviewing this project to the letter of the code as it moves forward if the development agreement is approved.
Thank you, Mike. Did any commissioners have any questions for Mike on what he's just shared with us?
Yeah, I've got a couple.
Thank you.
Um,
Yep.
so, Mike, one of the things from Aaliyah and Joe Gray's letter that I thought would be handy to get some more insight on before the next meeting is paragraph 7. It's the one beginning with third, the agreement states. I think that brings up a good point. I think it would be kind of nice if we could just see a list. If it doesn't have to necessarily be in the DA, but if we could see a clear list of what standards are addressing there to be vested, that would help me at least.
Yeah,
and then,
as far as vesting, I can answer that now. That the development agreement is very explicit that it only authorizes vesting to the provisions of the development agreement. So the approval of the development agreement does not vest them to the critical areas in effect at the present time or other things. So if those change through the course of time before they submit a complete application, then they would have to comply to those updated standards.
okay. And then my second and the last question, in the previous meeting we had, the last meeting, the developer had made it sound like the movement of the building towards the right of way and the vacation of that right of way was something that our code was requiring. In your packet to this time, it seems like it was a decision by the developer to make that move. Can you clarify that?
Both, actually. So without the vacation, the building would have to be built as close as it could to the sidewalk. But what our design standards require is that the building be built up to the sidewalk. So you'd have this kind of weird gap otherwise, where you'd have the sidewalk, then you'd have this kind of hole with a dip, and then the building. And that wouldn't be a very desirable situation from a pedestrian standpoint or aesthetic standpoint. So this would resolve that issue.
I agree, and I like that helps a lot. But what the point more for me in terms of deciding again for the DA is the way it was sounded like in the first meeting, that movement to there was strictly why this building was in front of us for the DA. So you can understand I hope you can understand what I'm saying is if they chose to make that move and thus need this height requirement, that's different than if the city forced that move and now they have to get that height requirement. Does that make sense?
I think even more than the slope topography, the slope topography helps them to address that street frontage, but the bigger issue is the floodplain. So without that below grade parking, they would have a much harder time meeting floodplain requirements. You'd have to, it would be a wasted space, and they would still have to elevate the residential to 2 feet above the 100-year flood level. So
okay, that makes sense.
That kind of brings up from the bottom, it constrains the developable area.
Okay. Those are my questions.
Yeah, this is Commissioner Tao. I have a question. Hey, Mike, has the city's development agreement ordinance ever been challenged in court?
Not that I'm aware of.
Is it a word for word adoption of like a state code or a model ordinance from some other city, or is it a North Bend unique ordinance?
I know that it does reference to state code. It references to quite a bit of RCWs, but it is specific to North Bend. I know that our city attorney has reviewed it.
No, I understand that. Yeah, I know that. I just wondered if it had ever been challenged.
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Mr. Greenberg? No. Okay.
I had a quick question about the, there's in section, oh, I don't know, it's page 31 of the PDF. And it says the Affordable Housing Agreement shall stipulate the administration, management, and monitoring provisions regarding the rental of the housing units. Do we know who monitors for compliance, like 5 or 10 years down the road? Is that the city?
Yeah, we left that intentionally a little bit vague, so that would be something that would be developed. We didn't feel like we needed to provide all those details specifically within the development agreement, but just to reference that it would be created. So we'd have our city attorney review that together with the applicant, and we'd probably rely on a lot of provisions from other affordable housing programs. So this is going to be a fairly common thing that other cities do. So we just need to find out what the right model is and then develop an affordable housing program or affordable housing agreement based on that.
Okay.
Anybody else have a question for staff? Okay.
If sorry, Judy, sorry.
That's okay, great.
It's kind of a side question. Is this short of this development agreement, if this project does move forward, is there any part of this that comes back to us, or is it just in front of us for this DA?
No, it would just be for the DA. Other than that, it's an administrative review, and the public certainly would still have opportunity to provide comment. There would be a notice of application, and then also the SEPA process by which the planning or the public could comment on the project.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, staff. Thank you very much, Mike. That was great. Your response to the questions, it really helps after our public asks these questions and for you to come back, and I know I certainly do appreciate it. The next thing on our agenda is the introduction, number 5, the introduction of amendments to North Bend Municipal Code 18.22 temporary uses, and Rebecca will be sharing that with us.
Thank you. I'm actually going to keep this really short because it's a really simple amendment. We are proposing to amend the temporary use code to provide a means for utility and government entities who are building a public infrastructure project to utilize property for the storage of needed equipment on a temporary basis while they are under construction. The current code allows for this type of storage without a temporary use permit for private construction projects that are on an actual active construction site. However, public projects are usually in easements or public right-of-way or trails, so they are not able to store their equipment on the same site as the construction area. So the proposed code adds for us to add this to the code, allowing for staff to condition the project to ensure compatibility with surrounding uses. For storage areas like this, that would usually include screening, truck routes, mud track out controls, that kind of thing. I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Are you looking for a motion from us to do this? No, no.
No, this is just an introduction. I just want to know if you have any questions before we bring it back for the public hearing.
Okay. Commissioners, anybody have a question on that or a thought? No. Seeing none. Thank you, Rebecca. We'll
Thank
wait,
you.
look for that to come back to us.
Yeah, we've got it advertised for the public hearing at the next meeting. So.
Okay. Oh, great. Okay. Number 6 on our agenda is the Planning Commission summer calendar. Discuss which meetings to cancel in July and August. There is one in June that we're going to have to cancel, and that would be June 24th. So we will be have one meeting in June, which is June 10th. I was thinking as I saw this, and I know from Parks Commission, and I'm not sure what the Planning Commission has done in the past, but it was really nice to take a month off, and that was just under normal times. Now with people being vaccinated and stuff, perhaps we need a little more. I don't know if people have vacations, you book things, and so I'm looking for any feedback from you, how you all feel, whether you want one meeting in July, one meeting in August, you want to take August off, you want to take July off. Thoughts at all? Yes, Scott.
So I, due to my having my business at the farmers market, I'm unlikely to be able to attend any planning commission meetings in June, July, or August, just like last year. I mean, I may be able to do some of it. Doing it remotely helps, but I'm going to say right now not to count on me for the summer.
Okay. Thank you very much in advance, and we'll look forward to seeing you at one of those public markets.
Hopefully, yeah.
Anyone else have some thoughts? Do you want to bring it back to the next meeting, or do you want to see where we are tonight on this, or look at your calendars? You share with what you'd like to do.
I'm around for the summer, so whatever works for everyone else is fine with me.
James, are you okay?
Mr. Torgerson, what's our schedule like for topics? I mean, do we have a heavy schedule, or, you know?
At this time, I don't have anything agendized in that time period. So whatever you choose, we'd be able to work around your schedule. If you guys wanted a little extra time off, since we planned on canceling the end of June, if you wanted to cancel the first meeting in July, that would give you a full month with still having a meeting each month. So that's one option to put out there too.
Well, I was going to say that
4th of July.
I was just going to say that summer is the one time I can pretty regularly make meetings. So I don't have any obligations either way.
Okay. Olivia, how about you?
For what it's worth, I won't be at the August 19th meeting because I'll be camping and I won't have reception. And that's it. August 5th is my birthday, but I'm cool to meet. I don't have any.
Okay. Gary, anything that you've got on plan that you?
Yeah, I don't have my calendar right in front of me, but I do have some travel scheduled in July, at the end of June and the beginning and the end of July. Okay. So it's possible that I would be limited to one meeting June, July, and August anyway, just for vacation schedules. But I don't have my calendar. I can send those dates if it makes a difference.
How have you handled this on this commission before in the past? Does everybody, we introduce it and then we come back in 2 weeks with our thoughts, or do you think we can make that decision tonight, eliminating the June 24th meeting? And what was the one in July you were talking about, Rebecca? The first.
Yeah, the 1st July, I believe, is the 7th. So let me go back.
Right, 8th.
8th. I'm sorry. July 8th would be the first meeting in July.
We could say bye-bye to June 24th and July 8th.
That sounds good to me.
Does that sound good to people? Give us a little break. I don't know. I'm kind of thinking August. I'm with Olivia on that one. A little time off in August too, but I don't. I guess I would take my direction from my fellow commissioners as well as staff on that.
Staff can also work to without officially canceling it. If you guys would like us to try and keep the second meeting in August clear unless something comes up, so we'll keep it scheduled. But if we can work around it, we can cancel it if your guys' direction. I mean, and we can look where we're at the end of July too and see what we've got going on.
How do you feel about that, commissioners? It sounds good to me.
Yeah, hey, this is Gary. I will miss if we have a meeting on July 22nd, I will miss that one.
Okay, thank you. All right.
This is Commissioner Torgerson. August 12th, the second week of August. I would most likely miss that one since I have family in town that week.
So maybe we say bye-bye to August 12th? Maybe
I would say yeah to that, but
Well, right now we could say goodbye to the 24th and is it the 8th or 7th? 8th.
It's the 8th, yeah.
Okay, let's say goodbye to those right now and then see how schedules are, what we need to come in front of us, and see what we need to do in August.
And so if I can hear again, is how many people would not be able to make the first meeting in August?
Me, Susan, I got my video off.
Oh, that's
helping out.
Okay. And how many wouldn't be able to make the second meeting in August?
Would make it or miss it?
How many people would miss the second meeting in August?
This is the 26th, correct?
Yes. So it sounds like we've got a lot of people who would miss the first meeting in August.
Yes.
Correct? So let's go ahead and plan on canceling it. We might not even have a quorum anyway. So let's see. So we've got June 24th, July 8th, and August 12th.
Okay. Everybody good with that? Everybody's nodding, I think. All right. Okay, that's number 6 on our, do we need a motion for that, or is that just good enough how we've done this? No, Scott's saying no motion. Okay, all right.
It was just discussion. You don't need a motion.
Okay, perfect.
And if we come up with an urgent item, we'll pull you guys if we have to have a special meeting because those dates don't work, or if we need to bring one of those dates back because something comes up, we'll see if we've got a quorum or not. But those will be basically, it'll kind of be an unofficial summer schedule. We're planning on canceling it. We'll schedule around it. Something comes up, we'll reach out.
Sounds good, Rebecca. Sounds great. Looks like before I adjourn, it looks like our upcoming meeting on May 27th, we will be deliberating and doing recommendation for this development agreement that we have listened to tonight, and with our public comments as well as Mike's follow-up, and then public hearing and possible PC recommendations for the temporary uses for equipment storage, or whatever your presentation. And I say it like that because I was like, what am I reading here? Can you not do that? But apparently we need that, so we will do that. Anything else for the good of the order?
So I do want to let you guys know we are working on getting a Zoom account. So it may not be the next meeting, but I'm hoping by the following meeting, we might be advertising this for Zoom. We do require for security purposes that everybody have a registered Zoom account, a free account. So people, if you get a Zoom meeting, you can just click on it and open it and you just put your name in and you're able to enter a meeting. A lot of cities don't allow that. You actually have to log in and put your name and email and create an account in order to join the meeting. And it's to prevent people from hacking in without having registered with Zoom. So I'm just letting you guys know that is a security item with Zoom. And so I know the first time we had a bigger, wider workshop citywide on Zoom, we had a few people who were not able to get in because they had to register the account first. So obviously we're this far into the pandemic and a lot of people have Zoom accounts, so shouldn't be too big of an issue, but I'm just letting you know that that's the case with Zoom. Second of all, we have kind of gone back and forth with our city attorney, and this city does consider abstentions as silent approvals. So when we do have an abstention, so if it kind of counts towards the majority pass. I apologize for that. In my previous city, abstentions were counted as no's, were silent no's instead of silent yeses. So if you have a vote that's 2 to approve, 2 to deny, and 2 abstain, for instance, the motion passes because the abstentions are counted as silent yeses. So even though we were we looked like we were going to have not a majority yes because we didn't have a quorum on an item, and the vote happened to just be minutes, but so it's not usually as big of a deal when it's in minutes, but we didn't have a majority of people saying yes, even though we had no no's. So you can pass an item if you only have 4 people, you can pass an item with 1 yes, 0 no's, and 2 abstentions, which seems odd to me sometimes. So I just wanted to let you guys know that we did do that research a little bit with our city attorney, checked with what the city had done in the past. It may be a little concerning if we ever have to do that with an actual item that you're recommending, but nobody's concerned over minutes. So as long as we keep it to the minutes, that's where we run into that, nobody has concerns. But if we get to items, we may still want to continue the item till we have more people, if we've got more people trying to abstain than vote. So
that makes sense. Thank you very much for
clarifying. You're welcome.
Thank you. Okay, well, we are
sorry, Judy.
Yeah.
For clarification, it is, and I don't know this rule, is absence an abstention inherently, or?
No, so absence is basically close towards the lack of quorum. It doesn't count towards anything. And also if you recuse yourself, it's also treated differently than an abstention from the vote. So if there's an actual item, and you live too close to it and you recuse yourself, that doesn't count as a yes or no. That counts as you're not in the meeting. But when you abstain, you abstain from the vote because you weren't there at the previous meeting for the minutes, it's basically a silent yes, is how it's counted. It's not that it is a silent yes, it's just how it's counted towards the motion passing.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure I had that clear.
Everybody else, we good? Okay. All right, let's see, we are at 8:08, and for the good of the order, if there's nothing else, I don't think I need a motion to adjourn. I think Scott lets me know that. We can adjourn the meeting at 8:08, and thank you very much. That's it. Bye, everybody.
All right, you all have a nice evening.
Nice job, Mike. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.